When an incident hits, most teams don't lack data. They lack observability. They lack clarity. Observability isn't tooling. It's not about vendors. It's not dashboards. It's not metrics or traces. Observability is a practice. It's about knowing what we understand about our production system. The practice of reasoning from evidence and uncertainty. These 5 steps that I'm going to review today are observability. Asking falsifiable questions, understanding your measurements, designing valid comparisons, interpreting data carefully, building knowledge. This is epistemics applied to production systems. It's how we know what we understand when systems are failing. It's how we move from confusion through observability to understanding. We've all seen this. Dashboards everywhere, alerts firing, and people asking the same questions over and over again. Is it the database? What's going on? Did the deploy break something? What I'm about to walk through isn't a framework for observability. It is observability. This is how we practice knowing what we understand about production systems. Hi, I'm Jack Neely, and I'm owner of Cardinality Cloud, LLC, where observability isn't a tax, it's leverage. I have 25 years of experience in DevOps and SRE work, more than a decade of that as an observability subject matter expert. Today, what is observability? These 5 steps. Step 1. Ask falsifiable questions. The first failure most teams have during incident isn't technical. It's epistemic. We ask these questions that feel so urgent, but they can't be answered. Is the database down? Is the network acting up again? Is it that Kubernetes cluster? These questions cannot be proven wrong, which means they can't be disproven, they can't be answered, only argued ad nauseum and over and over. A falsifiable question sounds like this. For checkout requests in US East 1, did the schema migration at 14:0500 hours increase P95 database latency compared to the previous deploy? There, we have scope. We have comparison. We have a measurable outcome. We can prove this wrong. So tools that help here. Deploy markers in your dashboards, versioning labels in your Prometheus metrics, like the build info metric, or in your Kubernetes labels and annotations, in your tracing. These don't answer questions by themselves, but they make answering better questions possible. If you can't say what evidence would prove your question wrong, then that question's not ready. That's not a valid alert yet. That's not a valid comparison. Step 2 is understanding your measurements. Once we have a question, the next mistake is assuming our data, our dashboards are telling the truth. A metric is not reality. It's a lossy measurement with assumptions baked in. Before you use a signal to answer a question, to validate a hypothesis, we need to understand these 3 things. What it measures, what it can hide, and how it can lie. Take latency. From what point to what other point? Does it include retries? Latency from the load balancer might well include retries, but latency from your application likely doesn't. Is this sampled? Is this a full distribution of our latency measurements? Or worse, is it an average and just actively lying to you? Tools that help here. Metric definitions, the help text in defining Prometheus metrics, understanding histograms, knowing the sampling configuration that you're using. This is all kind of boring stuff, but it will keep your incident from going sideways. A common mistake here is looking at a green dashboard and assuming it's not me, it's not my service. The absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Step 3. Design valid comparisons. Numbers by themselves don't describe systems. Differences do. Observability data is always relative to something. The question is relative to what? What is the comparison? Good comparisons isolate one variable and hold everything else as constant as possible. Examples: comparing one version to another, the canary against the baseline, one availability zone against another in the same region. Tools that help here, this is why we do canary deploys. Again, versioning tags, using high cardinality labels on your logs and your traces. This allows us to slice and dice and ask specific questions that isolate specific variables. A common mistake here is comparing now to yesterday and paying no attention to traffic differences, deploys that have happened, seasonality. If everything in the comparison is different, then nothing is explanatory. Step 4, interpreting your evidence. Once you've designed a comparison, it's common to jump immediately to the conclusion. But evidence doesn't eliminate uncertainty, it just changes it. Interpretation means asking, does this increase certainty? Does this decrease certainty? Does it point to something else? Does it refute the hypothesis? Is it inconclusive and not related? Evidence affects certainty in 4 different ways. It can be consistent with the hypothesis and increase our certainty. It can be competing to our hypothesis and suggest a different cause, but not enough evidence to refute the hypothesis. It could well be the next bit of evidence that refutes the hypothesis. Also, it could be just inconclusive, something that happened at the same time but not related. Say we hypothesize the schema migration for the latency spike. The metrics show P95 increased at 1405, but the issue started at 1400. That doesn't refute the hypothesis, but it's competing evidence that decreases our certainty in it. If reads stayed flat in our P95 measurements while writes spiked, that indicates that the schema migration isn't it. That would affect both. Tools that help here are being able to correlate multiple signal types, traces, logs, metrics, logs from different systems. Common mistakes here are mistaking correlation for causation. Just because 2 events happen at the same time doesn't mean they caused each other. Narrative lock-in: if you have evidence pointing in one direction and all your SRE buddies are converging on different cause, a different conclusion, stick to your evidence. Don't just conform. Premature closure: coming across some evidence that looks reasonable slapping down a deploy, the graphs look better, we walk away. That doesn't teach us anything and probably didn't solve the problem either. If your data can't surprise you, then you're not interpreting it. Step 5. Build knowledge. Most incident management frameworks stop here. Identify the issue, fix it, write the postmortem, you're done. Move on. But this fails. This doesn't build knowledge. Postmortems document what happened and when, but rarely do they document how we knew. Knowledge isn't time series or timelines, dashboards. Knowledge is what remains after the graphs have long gone and long expired. Capture these things in your postmortems. What hypotheses were tried? Which ones are wrong? Which ones are correct? What signals misled us or led to confirmation of a hypothesis? Which comparisons worked well? Which comparisons led to that signal? Were decisions made under uncertainty? Why? Document this. Perhaps time crunch, but know why decisions were made with less than full certainty. If learning doesn't compound working these incidences, then observability is just an expense. If we're not building knowledge, then we're not practicing observability. So let's recap. Observability isn't about more data. It's about knowing how we understand. These 5 steps are observability. Asking falsifiable questions, understanding your measurements, designing valid comparisons, interpreting evidence carefully. Build knowledge that makes the next incident easier. This is how we practice reasoning from uncertainty. This is how observability becomes leverage, not a tax. If you'd like help training your team, or you want to get in front of your CFO before that 6-figure observability bill hits, I can help. Link in the description.